Prerequisite skills for pre-calculus. Skill 1A, interval notation. In this case, we have the interval of x greater than or equal to -4 and less than 3. For interval notation, for included point, we will use a square bracket. For excluded points, we use a round bracket. In this case, for -4 less than or equal to x less than 3, or x greater than or equal to -4 and less than 3, we have a square bracket for the -4. Then we're shading from -4 to 3, and then we have a round bracket or parentheses at the 3. Notice that for interval notation, sections of the number line that are shaded have a beginning and end. The first value in each interval is the beginning of the shading, the second value is the end, and we indicate whether we include or exclude endpoints using square and round brackets. Let's consider this second graph. In this case, we have that x is less than -8 or x is greater than or equal to 1. Since we're shading all the values less than -8, we will use the lower bound of the real numbers, -infinity, as the beginning of our first interval. Since we are shading all the values greater than or equal to 1, then we will use the upper bound of the real numbers, infinity, as the second bound in our second interval. Let's take a look. So, we start with a round bracket, -infinity. The shading goes from there until -8. Since -8 is not included, we give it a round bracket. The word or is represented by the union symbol. Now, since we're including the 1, we have a square bracket and the 1, and then we shade from 1 till the end of the number line, which is represented by infinity. Since infinity is not a number, we give it a round bracket. Anytime you use interval notation with infinity or -infinity, you will use round brackets for those conceptuals. One final example. In this case, we have that x is less than or equal to -5, or x is greater than 1 and less than 6. We will use a combination here. In this case, since our shading begins at the end of the number line, we use -infinity as our first bound with a round bracket. We're shading until -5 and including it, so -5 is written with a square bracket. The word or receives the union symbol. Since -1 is not included, but the shading will begin right after -1, we have a round bracket and -1. The shading goes up till, but right before 6, non-inclusive, so 6 gets a round bracket. And so this is the interval notation for this number line. In our next video, we will consider set builder notation.